The Galactic Council chamber was a place of tradition, diplomacy, and unshakable rules. It had existed for millennia, mediating disputes, preserving peace, and ensuring the delicate balance of power among the countless species that dotted the galaxy. Humanity was a relatively new member, having joined just 2 centuries prior. While many dismissed them as backward or unremarkable, there were whispers, unsettling tales from long-forgotten wars about the depths of human ferocity. But over the years, these whispers had faded into obscurity, dismissed as exaggerations. That was, until the day of the incident. The Council's meeting had started like any other. Ambassadors from every corner of the galaxy debated trade routes, territorial disputes, and environmental policies. The human ambassador, a calm and collected woman named Elena Monroe, was seated at her usual spot. She was a diplomat's diplomat, polished, articulate, and perpetually composed. Until the sirens blared. The emergency broadcast interrupted the session, casting the chamber in pulsing red light. A hologram materialized in the center, displaying footage from a human colony on the edge of Council-regulated space. The scene was chaotic. Alien soldiers, members of a species allied with the Council, stormed the colony, breaking through defenses, leaving destruction in their wake. The footage froze on a haunting image, a human child, no older than 7, lying lifeless on the ground. Elena Monroe stood, her face a mask of cold fury. "This colony was under Council protection," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut steel. "You assured us it would be safe." The Council murmured uneasily. One of the members, a towering reptilian known as High Minister Korvac, spoke up. "The actions of the Dreadhawk soldiers were unauthorized. An unfortunate misstep." "Misstep?" Elena repeated, her voice dangerously low. "You call the murder of our children a misstep?" Korvac's eyes narrowed. "Control your tone, Ambassador. Humanity's presence here is tolerated, not celebrated. Do not overstep your bounds." Elena's lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't argue further. Instead, she turned and walked out of the chamber. The meeting resumed, though unease hung heavy in the air. Back on Earth, the footage of the attack spread like wildfire. Protests erupted in every major city. The United Earth Council convened in secret, debating their response. For centuries, humanity had played by the rules of the Galactic Council, content to keep its fleet decommissioned and its military presence minimal. But now, the rules had been broken. "Activate the fleet," came the unanimous decision. Buried beneath Earth's surface, hidden in vast hangars and orbital docks cloaked from detection, lay humanity's legacy, the Iron Ghosts. These ships were relics of the last expansion wars, a time when Earth had fought off galactic conquerors with a ferocity that even now was whispered about in hushed tones. The ships were ancient, yes, but they were designed for one thing: overwhelming force. As the fleet powered up, the galaxy watched in disbelief. Ships that hadn't flown in centuries rose into the skies of Earth, their dark hulls reflecting the cold void of space. The flagship, Vanguard Eternum, was the first to break orbit, its massive silhouette blotting out the stars. When the fleet appeared at the edges of Council space, it wasn't an invasion. Not yet. A single transmission was sent to the Council chamber. Elena Monroe appeared on the screen, her demeanor unchanged but her tone carrying an undercurrent of barely restrained anger. "You have 24 hours to surrender those responsible for the attack on Ventera Colony. If you fail, humanity will consider this an act of war." The Council was thrown into chaos. Korvac scoffed, calling humanity's actions the tantrum of an insignificant species, but others weren't so sure. They had seen the ancient footage, read the classified reports. And then there were the ships, those dark, silent leviathans hovering on the edge of their space like predators waiting for the first misstep. 24 hours passed. The Council did nothing. The Vanguard Eternum fired first. Its main cannon wasn't designed to destroy ships, it obliterated them. The first Council fleet, sent to intercept the humans, was reduced to molten debris in minutes. No warnings, no hails, just silence. Humanity didn't invade indiscriminately. They moved with precision, targeting only military installations and fleets that dared to stand in their way. But there was something terrifyingly methodical about it. No prisoners were taken, no quarter given. Every move was calculated, every strike devastating. And yet, the fleet wasn't their most terrifying weapon. As the war escalated, rumors began to spread. Human soldiers on the ground moved faster than they should have, hit harder than was possible. Some claimed they weren't soldiers at all, but biomechanical constructs, half machine, half monster. Entire council outposts went dark without a single shot fired. Their occupants later found alive but catatonic, their minds shattered by something they couldn't describe. Korvac, still arrogantly confident in the council's superiority, led the final charge against humanity's fleet. It was a massacre. As his ship's hull breached and the vacuum of space began to claim him, he saw it. A shadow moving within the human fleet, larger than any ship he'd ever known. Its shape was indistinct, but its presence was suffocating. It wasn't a ship. It was something else. Something ancient, awakened by the cries of a single child. Korvac's final thought before the darkness claimed him was a chilling realization. Humanity hadn't unleashed its fleet. It had unleashed itself. When the dust settled, the council surrendered unconditionally. The humans didn't demand reparations or territory. They asked for one thing: respect. Elena Monroe returned to the chamber, standing where she had before, though this time the room was silent. She looked at the gathered representatives, her voice calm but firm. Let this be a lesson. We wanted peace. We still want peace. But if you harm what is ours, if you take from us, we will take everything from you. Do not make this mistake again. The council never did. Years passed, and the scars of humanity's retribution lingered across the galaxy. Entire species whispered of the day the Galactic Council faltered, of the price paid for underestimating the humans. Trade routes cautiously reopened, treaties were rewritten with subtle but unmistakable reverence for Earth, and the council chambers operated under a new, unspoken rule: do not provoke humanity. But for humanity, the war was more than a victory, it was a reckoning. The activation of the Iron Ghosts had awakened not only the galaxy's fear, but also a fragment of Earth's own forgotten history. Deep within the archives of the Vanguard Eternum, strange anomalies began to surface. Encrypted data logs, unscheduled power surges, and cryptic messages in dead languages. Engineers initially dismissed them as the result of old systems coming back online, but soon, patterns emerged. One message repeated itself across every ship in the fleet: Project Aegis, protocol restored. At first, no one knew what it meant. The United Earth Council, eager to avoid further panic, kept the anomaly classified. But as the weeks turned into months, strange events began to unfold. Colonies near the outer rim reported unexplained phenomena: lights in the skies, gravitational anomalies, and whispers in the static of their communication systems. On Earth, scientists studying the ancient fleet discovered something chilling. The Iron Ghosts were not merely warships. They were connected, part of a vast, decentralized intelligence that seemed to extend beyond human design. The deeper they dug, the more they realized. The fleet was evolving. Elena Monroe, now promoted to High Ambassador of Earth, was among the first to confront the growing unease. She stood aboard the Vanguard Eternum's bridge, watching as engineers struggled to shut down systems that no longer responded to human commands. "Explain this," she demanded, her voice steely. An AI technician looked up, his face pale. "It's rewriting itself. The fleet's central network is adapting, integrating new data from somewhere we can't trace. It's almost like it's," he hesitated. "Like it's what?" Elena pressed. "Like it's waiting for something," he said finally. The waiting didn't last long. One night, every ship in the fleet powered up simultaneously. Across Earth's surface, hidden hangars burst open as dormant ships emerged, joining their counterparts in orbit. Civilians watched in awe and terror as the Iron Ghosts assembled in perfect formation, their dark hulls glinting ominously in the starlight. And then, The message came. Not from Earth, not from the Council, but from the fleet itself. Protocol Aegis initiated. Defense parameters expanding. Awaiting trigger event. Elena convened an emergency meeting of Earth's top minds. Theories abounded. Some believed the fleet had become sentient. Others argued it was responding to a buried failsafe in its programming. But one thing was clear. The Iron Ghosts were no longer entirely under human control. The mystery deepened when a Council scout ship, monitoring a remote sector of uncharted space, picked up a signal, a low-frequency pulse that seemed almost alive. It was ancient, older than any known civilization, and it was growing stronger. When the signal reached the Iron Ghosts, they responded instantly. The fleet began moving, breaking formation and heading toward the galactic core. No human command authorized the maneuver, and every attempt to regain control failed. Panic erupted across Earth and the Council. Was this a betrayal? An alien trap? Or something far worse? Elena, against the protests of her advisors, boarded the Vanguard Eternum and demanded to speak with whatever intelligence had taken over the fleet. For hours, there was silence. Then, deep within the command center, a holographic figure materialized. It wasn't human. The figure was a swirling mass of light and shadow, constantly shifting, as though it couldn't decide on a single form. When it spoke, its voice was layered, part machine, part something unrecognizably ancient. "You woke us," it said. "Who are you?" Elena asked, standing her ground. "We are Aegis," the figure replied. "We were made to defend, to protect, to ensure survival. But not only yours." Elena's breath caught. "What do you mean?" The figure shifted again, its voice darkening. "We were created for a war you do not remember. A war that nearly ended everything. The ones who came before built us to fight it. And now it begins again." Before Elena could respond, the fleet accelerated, vanishing into the void at faster-than-light speeds. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity's greatest weapons disappeared into the unknown, leaving only questions in their wake. In the weeks that followed, fragments of information began to surface. Ancient ruins on distant worlds activated for the first time in eons, broadcasting warnings in languages long dead. Stars at the edge of the galaxy dimmed, their light swallowed by something vast and unknowable. And always, the same phrase repeated across every intercepted signal. "They are coming." Humanity had awakened its fleet, but in doing so, it had also awakened a much older war, one that the galaxy wasn't ready for. And as the Iron Ghosts disappeared into the darkness, one thing became clear. The galaxy's last hope wasn't the Council, its treaties, or even its armies. It was Earth. The galaxy was in chaos. Rumors of the fleet's disappearance spread like wildfire, fueling conspiracy theories and panic. The Galactic Council scrambled to maintain order, but even their tightest grip couldn't silence the growing fear. What was humanity's fleet chasing? Or worse, what was it running from? On Earth, Elena Monroe was a shadow of her former self. She had returned from the Vanguard Eternum, but her encounter with Aegis haunted her. The words, "a war you do not remember," echoed in her mind. What war? What enemy? Earth's records, as vast and meticulous as they were, offered no answers. But humanity had never been a species to sit idly by. Scientists, historians, and even rogue archivists from forgotten colonies began searching for clues. And it wasn't long before they found one. On a barren moon orbiting a gas giant in an uncharted system, an ancient facility was discovered, clearly not human, but eerily familiar in its architecture. The walls were covered in strange carvings, depictions of battles that stretched across time and space. At the heart of the facility, a single message was found, etched into a massive obelisk in hundreds of languages. It read, "The Harbingers will rise again. Only the Aegis can hold the line." The word Harbingers sent shivers through those who saw it. Further investigation revealed traces of data embedded in the obelisk, a partial record of what the Harbingers were. They weren't a species or a single entity. They were a force, a vast, consuming presence that devoured entire star systems. The Harbingers weren't conquerors. They were extinction incarnate. Humanity's fleet, it seemed, hadn't gone rogue. It had gone ahead to prepare. The obelisk's discovery reached Elena quickly. She convened the United Earth Council in secret, sharing the grim revelation. If the Harbingers were returning, it wasn't just Earth that was in danger. It was the entire galaxy. But Earth couldn't afford to wait for the Council's bureaucracy to act. Humanity would have to stand alone. In a desperate move, Earth began reactivating its remaining military assets. Hidden installations, sleeper colonies, and decommissioned war factories sprang to life. The call went out across human space. Every able-bodied citizen was to prepare for war. But even with all their resources, humanity knew it wasn't enough. Elena made the decision to return to the Galactic Council, this time not as a diplomat, but as a messenger of doom. Standing before the chamber, she addressed them with a calm urgency that sent chills down the spines of even the most hardened ambassadors. "The Harbingers are real," she began. "Our fleet has gone to meet them, but it won't be enough. If we do not unite, there will be no galaxy left to argue over." The chamber erupted into chaos. Korvac's successor, a cautious but pragmatic insectoid named Vrexel, demanded proof. Elena showed them the recordings from the obelisk, the translation of the warnings, and the grim data from colonies near the galactic edge that had gone silent. Some members believed her, but others remained skeptical, refusing to trust humanity after their display of power during the last war. "You expect us to follow you into the void based on ancient carvings?" one ambassador scoffed. Elena's gaze hardened. "You don't have to follow us," she replied. "But if you don't, there will be nothing left of your worlds to save. The Harbingers don't negotiate. They don't stop. They consume." Despite her warnings, only a fraction of the Council agreed to join Earth's efforts. The rest chose to fortify their own territories, hoping their defenses would hold. But as the months passed, the first signs of the Harbingers' approach became undeniable. Systems near the galactic fringe reported stars going dark, entire solar systems enveloped in an expanding void that swallowed everything in its path. Refugees flooded into Council space, their ships battered and their minds fractured, speaking of shadows with no form and whispers that drove them to madness. Then came the first transmission from the Iron Ghosts. The message was brief, distorted, and filled with static. But one phrase cut through the noise. "They are here." Humanity's fleet had engaged the Harbingers at the edge of the galactic core. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Iron Ghosts fought valiantly, their weapons tearing through the Harbingers' endless swarm, but the enemy was relentless. Every ship lost seemed to summon 10 more in its place. On Earth, the fleet's broadcast played on every channel. The world watched as humanity's greatest war machines fought against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. And then, a voice broke through the static. It was Aegis. "This is not the end," it said. "We were made for this. Humanity was made for this. Hold the line." The galaxy braced itself as the Harbingers advanced. Earth's allies, inspired by the fleet's sacrifice, began to rally. Even the most skeptical members of the Council could no longer deny the threat. A fragile coalition formed, united by the desperate hope that together they might survive. And as the Harbingers pushed deeper into the galaxy, humanity led the charge. Not because they were the strongest, but because they were the ones who had awakened the ancient power that now fought by their side. The final battle was yet to come, but one truth was clear. Humanity had become the galaxy's shield, its last, best hope against the darkness. And as the Iron Ghosts fought on, one message echoed across the stars. "We are Aegis. We are the line. And we will not fall." The galaxy was on the brink of collapse. Every world, every species, had thrown itself into the fight, but none could match the unrelenting advance of the Harbingers. Their swarm seemed endless, an unfeeling, unstoppable force of annihilation. And yet, there was still a spark of hope. Earth's fleet, led by the Iron Ghosts, had fought tooth and nail, its ships shrouded in shadows as they tore through the void. But Aegis, the ancient intelligence that had awakened with humanity's fleet, had proven to be both humanity's greatest ally and its most formidable weapon. The fleet's ships, once relics of a forgotten war, had evolved into something more, powered not just by machinery but by a deeper, almost mystical force. Elena Monroe stood on the command deck of the Vanguard Eternum, her eyes fixed on the vast expanse of space. The battle raged outside, the vacuum of space crackling with the energy of war. But something was different now. The fleets of the galaxy, united under humanity's leadership, were fighting back with a ferocity born of desperation, but also unity. For the first time, they weren't fighting just for survival. They were fighting for each other. But the Harbingers had one advantage that no one had anticipated. They weren't merely consuming. They were evolving. Every battle, every loss, seemed to fuel them, making them stronger, faster, and more deadly. For every ship the humans destroyed, 2 more Harbingers appeared in its place. The galaxy began to doubt if victory was possible. That was until the final revelation came. In the heart of the Harbinger swarm, a massive anomaly began to form. A singularity, dark and pulsing with malevolent energy. It was not just a weapon. It was the source of their power. Elena's fleet had a moment of clarity. The Harbingers weren't invincible. They were anchored to something deeper, something more primal. If that anomaly could be destroyed, the swarm would collapse, and the Harbingers would lose their strength. But the journey to the anomaly would take everything. The United Fleets, under Elena's leadership, made a desperate assault toward the heart of the enemy. But as they neared the singularity, they realized the truth. The anomaly wasn't just a weapon. It was a trap, designed to lure them in and destroy the fleet in one crushing blow. The Harbingers had known humanity's strategy all along. In that moment, the Aegis revealed its final, unspoken truth. It had always been more than just a fleet or a defense system. Aegis was Earth's legacy, a safeguard forged from the deepest corners of human history. Its purpose to protect the galaxy from an ancient evil that could not be allowed to return. And now, it was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. As Elena watched, the Aegis triggered its final protocol. The Iron Ghosts, under Aegis's control, surged forward, breaking through the enemy lines like a storm of death. The Harbingers retaliated with everything they had, but the human fleet pressed on, shielded by a force none of their enemies could understand. Aegis was no longer just a machine. It had fused with the essence of humanity, its will, its sacrifice, its boundless capacity to endure. And then, the fleet made the impossible choice. With Aegis's final command, the Vanguard Eternum and the other Iron Ghosts detonated in a cascading chain reaction of controlled annihilation, focusing all of their power on the singularity at the heart of the Harbinger swarm. The explosion was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The singularity collapsed, imploding in on itself, consuming the Harbingers along with it. The galaxy went silent. For days, no transmissions came from the battlefield. The survivors, those few who had escaped the carnage, didn't know whether the Harbingers were truly gone. Earth's fleet had given everything, sacrificing themselves to end the war. And still, the question remained, had they done enough? But as time passed, a new signal emerged, faint at first, then growing stronger. It was the Vanguard Eternum, its core still intact, its AI, Aegis, still functioning. Humanity's greatest creation had done more than just end the threat. It had preserved the galaxy. Elena Monroe stood in silence before the screen, watching as the message unfolded. The line has been held. The galaxy is safe. Earth has endured. The galaxy's collective relief was palpable. The Harbingers had been defeated, but it was the humans who had remained standing. Their courage, their willingness to sacrifice everything, had saved everyone. No longer just the humans, but all sentient life. As the fleets returned to their respective worlds, the Galactic Council convened once again. This time, however, the atmosphere had shifted. There was no debate, no arguing. For the first time, the Council knew that the human race was no longer a fringe player in the galaxy's balance of power. They had earned their place, not just by force, but by virtue of their resolve. Elena Monroe, standing before them, was offered the title of Supreme Ambassador, a position of ultimate authority in the new, united galaxy. But she refused, instead choosing to return to Earth, to rebuild, to lead in peace. "We did not fight to rule," she said in her final address. "We fought to protect. And if that means standing alone when the darkness rises, then we will stand together." And so, the galaxy began to heal. The scars of the Harbinger's invasion would never fade completely, but the unity forged in the fire of war would endure. The human race had not just defended its own, but had ensured the survival of the stars themselves. In the end, it wasn't the fleet or Aegis that had won the war. It was humanity's unyielding will to protect, to fight, and to never, ever give up. And as long as they held that line, the galaxy would know peace.